do it.
Oh, well. We are here for another watch along. We just started the third quarter here. Bills Dolphins right now is 24-10 Buffalo. Here with my boy Rudy Vasquez. We'll have his son Cory on the show in a few minutes. What up, cuz? I love your hat.
No, kiddo.
I mean, a team is shit.
Always,
but
man.
I love your hat.
Rep.
Well, the team I'm wearing here on my
well, listen.
This team here.
I love it
right now.
I love it.
At least right now.
Anyway. I should have worn I was gonna wear my Mets hat, but I just felt like this was fitting, especially seeing the 24-10 situation. I feel a little more confident being in South Florida wearing my Giant hat. Not as embarrassed.
Well, the Giants. Well, right, and the Giants aren't as hated down here in South Florida as the Jets are, so you can get away with that. A lot of Fins fans are indebted to us because of the Super Bowl back in 2007, beating the Patriots and securing that unbeaten season. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Agreed.
So
agreed.
They don't talk about shit about the Giants. They do with the Jets. That's a blood rivalry there.
And it's pretty amazing too when you think about, like, I've been to Jet games wearing Giant gear, and there's not a lot of TLC when it comes to walking into Giant Stadium when the Jets are the home team. So
no,
it goes all the way around.
I have many friends that are Dolphin fans getting fights with Jets fans and vice versa in that stadium. It's pretty brutal. It's like Heat and Knicks, at least in the 90s anyway.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a bitter rivalry. There's not a lot of Miami, New York rivalry like the Heat and the Knicks, and that's pretty much where it exists and where it stays.
And for me, it's torture because, like, for me, I'm born in New York, but I've been living here for 30 years now. I've been living here since I was 9, so a little tortured in some ways. My favorite team of all time. I think last time we were on the podcast, we discussed that. Like, my favorite franchise of all time in any sport is the Heat. You know what I'm saying? I'm a massive Heat fan, like massive Heat fan.
Oh, I know.
But everything else is New York. Everything else is the Giants. It's the Mets in baseball. It's the Rangers in hockey. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
So
and the thing is, it is a humbling last few years. Especially to see Week 1 kind of play out the way it did. I tend to stay positive up until like a Week 4 or Week 5 where things. But this one feels like it's coming off the rails. Week 1,
brother.
And that's not the usual feeling. We've had the McAdoo era, we've had the a quick Shermer era. There's a lot of there's times where it's been super frustrating. The Jim Fossil years. I mean, there's just times as a Giant fan where you don't really give up right away. But that first game was pretty demoralizing.
It's been a humbling 13 years.
It is humbling to see your team be absolutely. Yeah,
it's been a humbling 13
is pretty accurate.
It's been a humbling 13 years, my friend. It really has been. I mean, it's definitely like, and look, and I said this before the past. Would I give it up those 2 Super Bowls for these 13 years? Hell no. It's still worth it. Those 2 Super Bowls we won in 07 and 11, not just winning the Super Bowls, but who we beat also too. I'll not get those back because those are moments in my life that I look back like, yeah, those are fun times, man. Beating Brady twice in the Super Bowl, being that guy,
No, and it's you could be a Jet fan, you could be a Dolphin fan. Jet fans, they haven't seen a Super Bowl since 1972.
No, 1969. 69 actually.
Sorry, 69. Yeah. And the Dolphins, 73, 72, 73, 72 perfect season, and then 73.
Well, they went to the Super Bowl in 84, but they lost. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean a championship. Yeah, so
right. Oh, winning the title. You're right.
Yeah, and the Dolphins' last playoff win hasn't come in I think 21 years. Yeah. The last playoff.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I mean, as a fan, there's appreciation. There's times where there's droughts and there's things that are frustrating. Honestly, you look at if you really kind of right now, especially the game we're looking at. I mean, think about it. An ETN fumble doesn't happen last week. And we're potentially looking at a team that's, and I think that's if you really look at context, we could be looking at a Dolphin team that's staring down the barrel of 0-2 with a lot of hype, So, I mean, that's a long time to not see a playoff win, to have a lot of excitement and hype and potentially be in trouble. This to me is what you're seeing right now is trouble. I mean, there's a lot of weakness on defense. When you look at the weapons on offense, you're looking at one superstar receiver and then some question marks. I know. I guess I'll ask you. Like, what are your thoughts on Jalen Waddle? Give me a breakdown.
On who?
Jalen Waddle. On Waddle.
Well, tonight he's done shit. He's done shit tonight. And look, Waddle has what, 3 targets, 3 catches, 20 yards. Just seen here. Toy Crow's worse, 16 yards and 2 catches. I mean, you got. I mean, I don't know if it's more credit to the Buffalo defense. I think Buffalo's better than we thought they were. At least from on my end, like I had Buffalo missing the playoffs this year as a 10-win team. But maybe they're better. But I also did say
that's a great point. So are they?
I made a statement back in the offseason saying that maybe Stephon Diggs leaving the Bills could be addition by subtraction. Not because he's not good enough. It's because of the fact that there's a lot of friction between him and Josh Allen. And sometimes having that guy who constantly demands the football hurts the overall team, hurts the overall flow of the offense. And I feel like Josh Allen now, he looked great last week too also after that slow start. I think maybe he's at a point now where he feels comfortable now that he's good enough to. He's a what do they call the term? He's a false multiplier. He can make other players better because he's that good.
And you're talking.
He doesn't need a star receiver. Whereas with Tua, it's different. Tua has a ceiling. That's clear.
Right.
He needs the requisite weapons to work. He can't survive without a Hill and a Waddle. We saw last year when those guys, he missed one of those guys and he fell off the cliff. Same Brock Purdy. And that's what separates a Josh Allen from a Tua. To separate a Mahomes from a Dak. Dak is good with the pieces around him.
Well, I want to go back to what you said about your original read, and I guess I'm going to stick to what your original take was, which was
about
the Bills. Sure. The Bills potentially, what you said, missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's look at exactly what they're up against, because think about it. When you're talking about are they better? Well, are they better, or are the Dolphins really showing us who they really are? Right. So
maybe a little bit of both.
How many wins? How many wins did the Cardinals have last year?
Well, they had 5 last year, but remember Kyler missed half the year, most of the year.
He did miss half the year, right? Yeah, but if you look at that team, they really didn't. There's not other than Ferrari Harrison, what do they call him? Ferrari Marv. Other than that,
is that his name for real?
Really, the team is. He's got a nickname. Corey. When Corey jumps on, I know it's something like Ferrari.
That's for the
Marv
cool.
Or something
That's
like that.
That's for the cool kids, not old folks not like old flight days like us.
Yeah, old folks like us. Right. Megatron is where it kind of like starts. It starts kind of
watch a cool kid coming in,
tapering off after that.
In 2 minutes, watch a cool coming in.
Right.
Like, "No, we correct you, pops."
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, think about that team. I mean, they struggled. In the NFL, the old adage is you got to beat the team. You got to get the wins you're supposed to get.
Oh shoot!
The Bills were supposed to win last week.
Did you see that?
Oh no, kidding. No, not yet. Not yet. My. Oh no. Yeah, my.
Are you on third down? Are you on third and short?
I am on 3rd and 5. Yeah. Oh boy, this is where it happens.
You're behind, actually.
Oh my God.
The ball away. You see it?
Wow.
You saw it?
I just saw it.
You tried to throw the ball away. And the ball hung too long.
That is unbelievable. I'm telling you that the guy is. I mean, honestly, and I do want to hear. That's definitely something I want to talk to you about. When we talk about these huge contracts and the necessity to pay it to I mean, to me, honestly, I'm looking at the replay right now. Yeah. That's similar to, honestly, and we could have that conversation, but that's a similar throw to Will Levis last week, where he's on the ground grabbing his head, grabbing his helmet, knowing that it was an awful decision at a bad time, and that's a similar caliber to me. That's a similar caliber player who just happens to have better weapons. Mm-hmm. Fixing your audio.
Yeah. What? Wow, that's a terrible throw. That should have hung as long as it did. I don't want to get married to narratives just yet, so early in the year. I know because Buffalo owns Miami. That's clear. They've won 12 last 13 meetings.
Yeah.
Mind you, half those meetings
It's like 11 of 12. I think they've won the last
something like that. Yeah, some number like that. I want to get married to those narratives though, either. But something to be said about this Buffalo team is in their head. And again, we live down in South Florida. We're friends with a lot of Dolphin fans and stuff. And the thing I keep driving home is that you guys are a good team, yes, but y'all need to win some big games. For us to take you guys seriously, you got to beat a Philadelphia, you got to beat a Buffalo, you got to beat a Kansas City, you got to beat San Francisco, and you're not doing that. So how am I supposed to take you guys seriously? We can't win those big games. Hey, you'll beat the Carolinas of the world and the Giants of the world, and probably the Colts and all these Midland teams. But if you're trying to become that next level team, you got to beat some of these good teams, man. And they're not doing that. This is 2 years running now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, and that's exactly right. So we talk about. I mean, I know you talk about narratives, but getting outside the narratives. Let's get to what you and I know as far as lifelong football, what it takes, the things that, again, just like I said last week, where I can give up on a season after a week only based on what I saw. Right. So the eye test, what passes the eye test? To me, Tua has, and somebody said it perfect in conversation that I've had, again, conversation regarding play execution, is that, if you take away his first or second option, it is pretty much play over, play dead. And the problem with a person that doesn't really have the confidence, like that Josh Allen, that Patrick Mahomes, that fire in their belly, that Joe Burrow confidence. I saw a touchdown get called back last week that I disagree should have gotten called back. Cincinnati Bengals should have won that game. And again, that's where I don't go with narrative when it comes to what that game potentially should have ended up like. It was rust. It was some noise in the offseason. But when you talk about a player like what we just saw, a Will Levis, a Tua, and I'll even dare to say, and I know it's a team that I can't stand, but when you see a Dak that really kind of crumbles a little bit under pressure when it gets serious and huge mistakes are made. I mean, that's where I question the amount of money that's being paid out. The fear of losing a player. So yes, the guy has a winning record. And so then it becomes more going back to what you said and actually stressing the fact that it becomes a narrative is that now we're paying to put butts in the seats to have a winning record versus going for the win. Because we know that when you start signing players for those amounts of money, Micah Parsons has got to get paid on the Cowboys. The Dolphins are going to have some of these younger players, the H-hands and the folks that they got to pay on the payroll. So these are huge contracts for players that are just not going to get you there. Yeah. And I'll argue that with anybody. Tua is not going to get you a Super Bowl win. He's probably not going to get you deep in the playoffs. I would actually go on a limb and say that to see him in an AFC championship, I'll be stunned. I mean, especially with what the tools that he's been given, the weapons, and what those teams will look like the last couple of years.
Yeah. He has 3 picks tonight. I didn't realize that. He has 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like Tyreek Hill, the gift that is Tyreek Hill is you got automatic separation. So you have a player that's going to give you automatic separation. There's, I definitely want to ask you because I was at, and when Cory jumps on, but we were having a conversation about top 2 receivers. There's to me, there's 2 receivers that are all time. Actually, 2 that are
right now playing.
No, in recent history, right? And so in the modern football era, Cory and I were talking Jerry Rice and Randy Moss, right? And then you put Megatron into the top 5. Yeah. And I would argue that Tyreek Hill is moving into what I would consider top 5 receivers.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
And so Cory argued it. He kind of shot back. But when you take a look at the evidence, that the visual, the aesthetics, the eye test, you got automatic separation. You got a Super Bowl win. You got a guy that basically moves the line. And something that I've heard Colin Cowherd talk, and I listen to him quite often, is that when you have a player that moves, that is able to move, a line, a betting line, right? That's pretty impressive. And I would say take Tyreek off of this team. And you made a point earlier, but just take Tyreek off this team. They're getting blown out 31-10. Take him off the team, and it's
probably going to score.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I agree with the Tyreek Hill thing, and I think I made that point. I think about even much just 2 years ago. Because he kind of reminds me of what Steph Curry does at that position, for example. Whereas like he changes the game in ways like the way you have to defend him. Your defenses change when he's on the field because he's so fast. He can change speed on a dime. Look at him in Kansas City, for example, the way he was in Kansas City. And of course, excuse me, like, oh, well, he had Mahomes. Well, now he goes to Miami now for 3 years now, and he's doing the same damn thing, not more.
Right.
So, yeah, if I was a put together an all-time top 5 receiver list all time, I don't know if I'll go there yet because the sample size is still smaller in comparison, but he's definitely on the way.
All right, give me your top 5.
Oh, well, Jerry, of course. Jerry's number 1. It's not any conversation. And I know Cory's a little young. Remember that, but you had to be there. You got to be there. He's just that.
Nobody's
good.
ever worked harder. Nobody's ever.
Oh God, yeah. He wasn't the fastest guy either.
That's my smart. Stop playing. That's my go-to.
Okay, cool. You're a smart guy. See, there you go. By the way, I love your hat.
What's up, Cory?
It's the only thing positive I got going on in my life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look at that. Same here. Same here. No, Jerry, T.O., Randy Moss. I'll go Megatron.
That's literally my top 3.
Yeah, I mean, you have T.O. there also.
No.
T.O. I got T.O. in top 5. T.O. You take away all the noise.
What about Larry Fitz?
Fitz is in the conversation.
To me, there's guys, and I mentioned this to Cory the other night. To me, there's 3 guys that are indisputable, right? So there's Rice, Moss, Megatron, and then you got and then the Tyreek conversation, the Tyreek argument that I was having with Cory, which you see shakes his head.
So sorry, you don't agree with Pops on this one?
No, I have to see more.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I'll split the debate with you guys here because I see Cory's argument about like we need to see more, but I think right now he's closer than you think.
Yeah, and that's what I say. I mean, the thing for me is like, and what I was saying to Cory, if you look at the next level, so let's look at the next level down because Antonio Brown, if Antonio Brown doesn't kind of go off the rails, I think that it's Tyreek and Antonio that kind of sit at that level, at that caliber. And then you have a zone of receivers that I would say are grouped into a bunch of massively talented individuals that were in great systems. That would be the Marvin Harrisons, the Larry Fitz, the Julio Jones, because Cory kind of threw the Julio Jones name out there, and I agree. But again, this is a different tier type receiver. The Odell Beckhams, right? Because Odell Beckham early in the 2010, early young Odell Beckham, he was a highlight reel. I mean, he was a guy that could make quarterback towards the end of his career look a lot better, and again, we experienced that, we appreciated that, but I think that when you talk about elite level best of all time, the reason I bring up Tyreek is because just watching him, it's automatic separation. He's a game changer, and there are a lot of game changers. Like when we talk about game changers, but we're talking about a player that can actually move the line. Julio Jones without Matt Ryan, somewhat different. DeAndre Hopkins in a different system. We've seen kind of how that shifts, even though he falls in that category. But you put Megatron on any team with any quarterback, you're not telling me that the guy's not moving the line.
I think what helps.
Put Jerry Rice on any team with any other quarterback, he's still moving the line.
I'd argue Justin Jefferson is right there too. That's my argument.
Who's that?
Justin Jefferson.
He's on his way.
Way too small. Yeah.
Way too small. But on his way.
Yeah.
He also been for some playing in a league that's so catered to offenses too, also. Which Tyreek also to some degree, but seeing Tyreek do this on 2 different teams though helps his case.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree.
Right.
Because as we said, before we came on, Cory, your dad said that Tua he's average at best.
I mean, if you look at how he's playing tonight, I'd agree with you.
3 picks.
He just got paid like he's an elite quarterback, and that's
And here's the thing: they had to pay him because where else are you going to go? There's no other options out there. Everybody's locked up.
Yeah.
Every quarterback out there's locked up.
But that's where I disagree. That's where I disagree. And it's funny because there's a fine line to having to pay, right? So I felt like coming off the season Daniel Jones did, I feel like there's more of an argument to say he had to get paid.
Too much.
Where
hit and he's down. I don't want to.
Yeah, and he's down.
Got hurt.
Tua's
And-
down.
Yeah, it's his hands again. So
Oh,
yeah,
fuck
that's
me,
rough.
man.
He did it again.
This is
It
a
happened
disaster.
again.
This is a disaster for the team tonight.
Jesus Christ.
His head's doing it. His hands are doing it again, man.
Oh, they
Is it really? Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, they're about to show the replay. Oh, that's not.
No.
Yeah,
Don't tell me
it's-
that's a concussion.
It just did it. Yeah, it just happened again with his hands.
Man,
And I was literally,
I'm hoping it's a concussion. I'm hoping it's a shoulder injury or something, not a concussion.
dude. And the crazy thing is, I was literally about to say, yeah, he's gonna get hit right. I'm just, oh.
That was a nasty hit.
And I was literally about to say, literally, as I'm watching the play happen, that he got paid. You paid a guy elite level money. Bless his heart, but his body is just not fit for the NFL. He was awesome in college. His body is not fit for the NFL, and the game is fast for him. And he has not proven that he can really take you any farther than a wild card type, than a wild card caliber team. And here he goes down, and I just saw his fingers curl the same way that they did before. So, unless I saw it wrong, it's going to be. Looks like it's going to be another concussion situation. And he could, and you know, again, the conversation that the comment I was going to make was that he is a one bad hit away from being, tying the Dolphins up in a major cap situation.
I didn't read their situation with the contract exactly, the stipulations in the contract. Like, what are the options, the opt outs in there? Are there like provisions in there? I'm not sure.
Well, they gave him what, 52.5 per year? It was more than Lawrence, right?
Yeah, so he got 212 for 4 years.
Jesus,
something like that. But again, let's look at a guy that where you can kind of you could see the similarities in the situation. So Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
that one I would argue that you do have to pay him. That's where, like, who are you going to get that's going to get you 13 wins? Yes, he struggles deep in the playoffs as well, but there is a business side to the NFL. You have to pay that guy. He's going to get you. He's going to move the line. He's going to break down in certain spots. He's not great on a third read. Yes, he's mobile. Yes, he's getting older. Huh?
He's up. Tua's up and walking. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
yeah,
good.
but he did that also in Buffalo 2 years ago when he got hurt as well. So, Dan Graca says his fingers did the same thing exactly. He took a hit last couple of years ago. Hoping for the best. Shit. Okay. Shit.
Walking, but he looks shaky walking.
You know what's crazy? You know who made a tackle? Damar Hamlin.
Yep.
No kidding.
Ironically enough, yeah.
It's fucking crazy, right?
It's insane, man. Shit is wild.
Pop, I agree with everything you were saying.
He has a slide, dude. Sorry, go ahead, Cory.
No. It's okay. He has to slide 100%. I agree. But on the point of Dak, yeah, that's a guy. I actually made a bet, and I won a bet with my boss, who's a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. He was swearing up and down that Dak was not going to get $60 million a year, and I was like, I promise you on make whatever bet you want. I'll sign a blank check if you want. There's no way he doesn't get an extension, and it's not $60 million a year. So I won the bet, and to that point, that's a guy and that organization, that franchise, that's a guy you can't let walk away.
You talking about Dak Prescott?
Yes, 100%.
They're stuck.
They're stuck, but he's a guy you cannot let walk away. It's one of those special instances. The Dolphins, they could totally let Tua, just let him walk, and then they could drop the next guy, like a Quinn Ewers type or a Carson Beck or one of those guys, plug him in, and Mike McDaniel will do wonders with him. Dak, you have to pay because they have no other choice. And as a Giants fan, I can't wait until Micah Parsons' extension comes up.
You mean coming up like in a few months?
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to see what number they give him.
And that's the thing. That's the business side of it. You're kind of stuck for the next 4 years trying to manage 4 major contracts, 3 or 4, right, Cory? 4, 3, 4 major contracts. Four major contracts.
Four contracts. Yeah.
Yeah, because Michael would be the 4th. You got Dak, you got CD, who's the 3rd, and then you got Micah.
I mean, I guess those are the 3. So 3.
3, yeah.
Your core 3, yeah. I mean, is Dak worth the money? I mean,
Yeah,
It's crazy because like it's
when you
crazy.
Look at the business side,
yeah,
from a business standpoint, the answer from a
Yes.
business from a strictly business viewpoint, yes, the answer is absolutely resoundingly yes. You have to put it's a monster market and a monster stadium with a very demanding owner that expects to put butts in the seats. And you're not going to put butts in the seats if you're not winning 10 games.
but we said this earlier when we started recording this, and this is where we have to define what Dak is. Like, is Dak Prescott a force multiplier? Like, we know Pat Mahomes is because we've seen Pat Mahomes lose the arguably best receiver in football, and all he does is win 2 Super Bowls in a row after that.
Right. But
there's a reason why he's Mahomes. Lamar Jackson, force multiplier. Does more or less. Joe Burrow, some degree, force multiplier. This is why Josh Allen now. This is why they're the top 4 guys in the league.
Right.
Is Dak, if you were to take away a CeeDee Lamb and plug in rookie receiver here, could he make X receiver here better because of who he is as opposed to needing the help?
Well, I'm going to go back to your original question. The original question is, do we know what Dak is? The answer is yes. Yes, we do. We know that he's a 13-win quarterback. And so can he make a receiver better? No. But if and that's what makes it a 2-part answer, right? So we know what Dak is, and we also know who Jerry Jones is. And he believes himself to be a great GM that knows how to draft. So in his mind, if you stretch yourself out on the when you stretch your budget out and you pretty much touch the top of the salary cap,
yeah,
in his mind, he's going to draft well. So he's going to put good pieces around him and be able to somehow get there. We know what Dak is. So the answer is yes, we know what he is. Just like we know what Mahomes is. Mahomes is, you could just basically survive through the draft, keep a couple of key players, whether it's offense and defense. It looks like it's mostly driven behind defense at this point because you can kind of put, you can put some quality offensive players and he's going to make it happen. So I know Cory has some thoughts on this one.
Go ahead, Cory.
I want to. Can you just repeat what the original question was? Because I do want to dive into this because I like it. I like it. So you can repeat what you were asking.
So we were talking about Dak. Dak Prescott was. I think I framed it is Dak Prescott a force multiplier? In other words, can he be a guy that no matter who you have, plug in X receiver here and make him rise him up? Like that's what makes Mahomes great. That's what makes Josh Allen great. That's what makes Lamar Jackson great, honestly. Because Lamar Jackson does more or less than anybody in the league, and he still wins the whole games a year.
I'm glad you said that because that's exactly the subject I want to touch on. So besides the legs, what does Lamar do better than Dak when it comes to the playoffs? Besides all the regular season success, besides dominating teams you're supposed to dominate and struggling like in massive games, and then obviously shitting the bed in the playoffs, what's the major difference between Lamar and Dak?
Well, Lamar's made further to the playoffs than Dak has.
He's what?
Lamar's made further to the playoffs than Dak has.
By winning one more game than Dak has?
Yeah, but you have to win them all those games in regular season. He's doing it in a tougher conference, number one. Doing it in a tougher conference with less help than Dak has. Dak has much more help on that side of the ball than Lamar Jackson. It's not even a conversation.
Like
an argument.
Like what help?
Like on offense, he has better receivers than
receiver. Continue.
That's still a lot, though.
Continue. So
that one receiver is a top 3 guy in the league. We argue.
I counter CeeDee Lamb and having no tight ends with having Mark Andrews and barely any receivers. Mark Andrews in his prime.
And you can add Isaiah Likely to that too. So
I'm saying,
but now,
besides this year, I'm saying in years prior, it's CeeDee Lamb and no tight ends and Mark Andrews and no receivers. I feel like it's
clear. I am not absolving Lamar from what's happened in the playoffs. Let's be clear. He deserves the criticism, but Lamar has done more or less than Dak. That's not even a conversation.
Okay, sure. Okay.
I'm going to answer that by saying that Lamar has done at or around what Dak has done. It just the aesthetic. So it looks a little more dramatic. It looks a little bit more come from behind-ish. It looks a little more
fun to watch Lamar.
More fun to watch. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. It looks more fun to watch and like root for. Yeah. Dak is way more vanilla, less explosive, more just ABC execution versus versus run wild, get there, excitement, close game, win by 6. Dak is more, they'll win by 10 to 20. They'll get the job done until it gets to the playoffs.
Game manager.
Then it's just basically get out coached, figure out the vanilla offense, and shut them down by a playoff caliber team. In the last 5 years, if you look at the teams that they've pretty much dominated or won consistently against, it's usually a team that they're supposed to beat. One of the things that I see that the Cowboys have done is they've won the games they're supposed to win, right, throughout the regular season. They end up with a positive record. They go into the playoffs. Then they play a playoff caliber team, somebody that's going to be on their way to either NFC Championship winner or Super Bowl or both, whatever. And then it's pretty much a done deal. So that's my take on that one. Now, when it comes to the Ravens, what I see is, in my experience with sports and football in particular, is that there's a chess game involved. When you're athletically superior, when your team is physically dominant over another team, that in and of itself is going to give you a tremendous edge. But when that physicality meets the other equal amount of physicality, then it takes brains, it takes coaching, and it takes an intelligent quarterback. I don't think that Lamar's an intelligent quarterback. I think that he struggles with. I think once you even out the physicality, team to team, you can pretty much you can put the right spy on him. You can put the right. You can pretty much put a couple of defenses together, and you're going to shut him down.
And you force him to beat him with your arm.
Right. So to me, that's just something that's been exposed.
I think it's a constructive criticism towards Lamar. I can see the argument there.
Because the coach is there, coaching is there, ownership's there, GM is there,
been there,
pieces are there, and that's why. I mean, you got when you look at running backs, I mean, that's all they've had, just tremendous running backs. They've had Hollywood Brown. They've had receivers that are. I mean, they've had talent for receivers, but we've seen some of the awful decision making from Lamar when you take away his running ability in a game, when you make adjustments on defense. Yeah, and so that's going to severely limit you.
I'm rooting for the dude, man. I'm rooting for Lamar. I really want him to get a ring so bad, just because I want the narrative to end.
Yeah,
I think he's
criticizing his boy right now, Pops. So you got to take it easy, right?
Well, I mean, he's gonna have, by the time he sees Lamar win a Super Bowl, he's gonna have a full head of hair and it's gonna be in a ponytail.
Who's that? Who's that?
Yeah, you.
Me? Hair?
Don't go back to Lamar. Don't go back exactly, which is exactly my point.
No, I look. His window is, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. I mean, you got to figure out, unless he becomes a even better passer as he gets older, his legs will start to become less of a weapon because of age and wear and tear.
EJ, I would argue his window was last year with that team he had.
There's an argument to that.
How weak the Chiefs were on offense, and they still couldn't beat Kansas City at home. I'd argue his window was last year. Because now, if you look at the Bills, I feel like the Dolphins are a good team, and what the Bills are doing to the Dolphins right now with my boy Josh Allen, I mean, the Bengals are going to figure it out like they always do, like towards the middle and the end of the year. With how stacked that AFC is with my other boy CJ Stroud coming along, I'd argue the Ravens' window was last year.
No, let's talk about that, because and that's why I was so let down about what happened last year, because they lost that game. Not Kansas City won that game. They lost that game without question. And you look at the AFC, and teams are redefining themselves. Houston 2 years ago was
dead in the water,
having stock, and now Houston we'll see in the weeks to come, if it just changes, they might be a Super Bowl contender. Let's see.
CJ's that guy, dude. CJ's legit, bro.
I haven't won MVP this year.
I saw that. That was one of the things I would have agreed with you on. I
got him as a 2 seed this year. 2 seed in a 2 seed.
And you guys don't sleep on Anthony Richardson.
I'm not.
You don't get that. No.
He's got to stay healthy, brother.
I didn't see it. I watched that throw. I was watching that throw live. That guy threw a 60-yard bomb from his back.
Cory?
EJ, this clown in the Giants hat right now was the one that was talking the most shit about Anthony Richardson in my fantasy football.
I never did.
He was talking the most shit.
I was not.
Now all of a sudden you got to look out for Anthony Richardson. I was on him before anybody else was.
Well, here's the problem. The problem with Air 15 is this: is that he's got to stay healthy. That's the big.
But that's what I'm saying. And I think I watched some of the game. I think he's going to be smart enough to really kind of tone it down a little bit, because he was. Last year, he was just going, just balls to the wall, just running hard into the end zone. And I saw him kind of stay in the pocket a little more this last weekend. Man, he's a beast. Man. He's a big,
he's
solid. He's a big guy.
He's a physical
man.
beast.
This guy has got. He's got
talent. He got
man.
drafted so high. He got drafted just based off of that freakish athleticism.
Yeah.
I love this commercial, by the way.
But EJ, don't let this guy. He was talking the most shit about Anthony Richardson and how he was going to be a bust and all this.
I never said that.
He's not allowed to jump on the wagon. Yes, you can. You're not
when
allowed
you figure
to.
out is when you realize people haven't been raised right when they talk like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
You 100% said that. I remember you saying it word for word.
Yeah.
So
well, he has to stay healthy first and foremost. He's another one that may have a short career because of his health issues.
Right.
But goes back to my point. The Ravens window was last year when everybody was down. They could have maybe beat that Niners team. I mean, I feel like that Niners team would have waxed them in the Super Bowl had it gotten that far. But I think
even though they did beat them 3 weeks prior on Monday Night Football before the playoffs started,
they did. But my boy Kyle Shanahan is such a psycho when it comes to things like that. His adjustments and how he would have had Purdy not try to do it much, throwing the ball downfield. He would have completely changed the game plan. And I think Harbaugh's good, but I don't think he would have had an answer for that. That's how I look at it. But it's all what ifs. And
no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you on the whole Lamar window could be closed because I that crossed my mind last year too after the loss. I was like, man, can you get back here again? You worked hard to get this point. You hit number 1 seed in the AFC. You're in the AFC title game. The KC's and remember KC at that point we didn't think KC would win that game. We thought KC was maybe one and done in the playoffs because they look so shaky. And ending the year, if you had told me on Christmas Day when they lost to the Raiders at home that this team will in a month and a half win a Super Bowl, I would have called you a liar.
100%.
And yet here we are, and this is why Patty Mahomes is top 3 all time. This is why. But yeah, the argument of Lamar's window being closed, I'm not ready to accept that just yet. But I think it's closer to closing than you realize. I will say.
I will say. 100%. I agree with that.
Is
the guy insanely talented? Can the guy play quarterback? Yes, absolutely. But do I trust him to take my team to that next level? I don't. Not at the moment.
If you give Lamar the weapons that Miami has, you think you can make that work?
No, I don't. And the reason why I don't is because remember we got to look at playing style. Playing style is important, right? So the reason I'm going to agree with Cory on the window, and actually I'm going to go beyond. I'm going to say that the window is closed, right? So
you with them too also?
No, Cory's kind of iffy. He's saying it's possibly. To me, I look at coaching is important, right? It's massively important. John Harbaugh, he's not going to be coaching there for the next 10 years. And I don't see a Jeff Fisher type, exit as in that suddenly they start losing. I just see a potential, gets a couple more seasons in, ends up with another, with that one winning season where he kind of walks away and he's like, I've won a championship. I'm spending more time on my family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It takes a couple years away. Yeah. And once you start seeing those pieces, a piece like that fall, because the coaching has been A+, right? So that team, if you look at the last 15 years of that team, it starts with coaching being A+, which it has been, right? Defense has been A+ for the most part, and it's had its spots where maybe it's B+ back to A+, and then you have the very similar weapons. If you take Lamar Jackson right now and you put him on the Dolphins, he has a Hollywood Brown, a better Hollywood Brown. He has a number 2 receiver that doesn't stay healthy. Yeah. He has no tight end, and he has a very limited to no defense, where he's now having to play from behind a lot more. So to answer your question, I see a downgrade on how it ultimately works out for him. One thing that I think benefits him is that he's usually playing in cold weather throughout the year versus starting in hot weather or warm weather and then going to cold weather because he's from South Florida. And I think that actually helps him stay consistent throughout the year versus going from a warm weather team, playing warm weather, excelling, being able to be limber, fast, run the ball a lot, and then have to adjust in the winter. So I think that's helped him playing in cold weather his whole career, but he's not getting younger. We know what happens to a mobile quarterback as he gets older. So the window to me, I would say more closed. I would say closed versus open. I'll give you that he's got this year. But after this year, it's pretty much a done deal. And I just don't see it happening beyond what he's already done. He doesn't have nothing's really improved. Yes, he has another tight end, but he's more of like a big wide receiver. So which he needed anyway.
As much as I want to argue with you on that point, I have to agree with you because we just don't know. And I mean, when you have a mobile quarterback like him who runs at the volume he does, you don't know how long it'll be because the amount of hits he takes a year, adds up. Look what happened to Cam Newton. And Cam Newton's no one as athletic as and Cam Newton's no one as fast as Lamar is.
And let's not forget, he does tend to. I feel that he does tend to when the odds are stacked against him, he gets stomach flus and stomach viruses, and then he's out. And so, or he struggles, or that's the reason why. And I go back. I think it was before Cory jumped in. I mean, you have your Josh Allens, you have your Mahomes, you have your Burrows. These guys you have your Matt Staffords, guys that will play through whatever to get to win. And then you have a guy that I think when and if you watch, when you see that he's pretty much been convinced that the game is either out of hand or it's not going to be winnable, he kind of tends to just check out. And to me, that's the sign of somebody who's kind of really just there to do the Aaron Rodgers stat padding. Yeah.
Damn, that's a little harsh there, Rudy. It's a little harsh there. But
he's spitting right now.
But I'll tell you what. You know what? All that being said, I'll take his ass in New York right now. Well, the guy we have right now currently.
Bro, I would take you as quarterback for the Giants right now, EJ.
Oh, so Cory, you're on board now? Because I felt bad on Sunday when we were texting on Sunday, and I felt like I was annoying you with the negativity. But I think you understood what I meant.
Totally.
You're seeing with your own eyes. Sometimes it registers when you have to see it from me telling you that, or your dad telling you that.
You'll never annoy this man. This dude worships you. You're like you live in.
I will say the words. I will say the words live on air to you, EJ. You told me so. I'll say it for you. You told me so. You're right.
I don't want to be. It's not even about being right here. It's that.
No, it was disheartening, man. I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. Please.
No. Go ahead. I'm gonna add something in a second.
My dad and I haven't gotten to talk about it much, but that was the worst quarterback performance I've ever seen as a Giants fan in my entire life. I couldn't stomach to watch it anymore. It was bad.
And we had some bad ones.
I've never turned off a Giants game in week 1 in my entire life ever. That specific game this past Sunday against the Vikings, I turned off in the middle of the third quarter because I couldn't watch it. Me too.
So did I.
I couldn't watch it anymore, man. It was horrible. I've never seen anything that bad in my entire life as a football fan.
I could enjoy my Domino's pizza that day. I had a nice little cheesy bites, and I could enjoy that.
Man, it was.
I finished it, but
Man, I poured myself the strongest cocktail after I got out of work that night. Dude, it was. That was the only way to even stomach what I just watched, what I just witnessed. It was horrible, man. He deserves 92, 93% of the blame. The rest of it goes completely on Dable. I mean, that game plan, the personnel. Jalen Hyatt gets buried as a third or fourth wide receiver when he was with the ones all training camp and all practice long or all preseason long too. For him to get buried and see maybe 4 or 5 snaps the entire game, what the fuck are you doing as a play caller? You take over play calling and you just leave out a guy that they drafted high in the 3rd round last year, and the guy has a lot of promise, and then you bury him as a 3rd or 4th wide receiver. Like, what are you doing, dude? What's the game plan here?
Let me ask you this. Well, first off, let me just frame it real quick why I was so pissed off on Sunday. I think when you have that situation on Sunday coupled with what happened on Friday night with Saquon Barkley.
Don't even get me started.
So you have the whole thing that happened in 48 hours. And again, I wasn't that mad when Saquon left because I understood what happened. Now, you and I disagree on the whole situation about the money, and that's not the argument for another day.
We could talk about it right now if you want.
But I think overall, the combination of Saquon doing what he did his first game against the team I hate the most in sports, that he's a member of now, coupled with this shit, okay? When your first play of the game, I think it was the first play of the game, the first play of the season is a delay game. I'm like, yeah, we're done. It came to a head there, and that's why I was so negative on the text when we're talking, because all of that in that same weekend it was like too much to bear, and all that shit I was holding back for months and months and months during the offseason now just came to fucking pass. Done.
That's fair. Listen, we were sitting there watching it, and I mean, the defense, and they look like they can compete, but the offense isn't going to let them as long as Jones is the quarterback.
You can't compete with this offense playing sustained drives.
They can't. I mean, the defense has to stay on the field because they're exhausted because the offense isn't giving them a break with Jones at quarterback. It's awful. And this is Pop's boy right here. When he's been defending him longer than anybody else has been defending anybody. So I mean, it's a little bit of sensitive ground for him because I finally got him to come to the light and realize this guy is just not a good quarterback. It was disheartening, man. It's week 1 and it feels like the season's completely over, as what you alluded to, like while we were on the text chain.
You know how bad it is? I feel comfortable this weekend picking Washington to win against New York. And for the record, New York has owned Washington the last couple of years.
We own Washington. We own them. And that
ends on Sunday.
Yeah. And I don't feel comfortable saying the Giants have a chance in that game at all. It sucks.
We're gonna win that game.
Whoa.
We're going to win that game. No, and we are, because that's what happens. We're going to win 4 games, and we're going to have not the number 1 pick overall. It's just so the irony in the whole thing of what you guys are talking about now, because I'm unpacking what you guys are saying. So the irony is we have witnessed for the last 20 years, or I'm sorry, for the first 15 years of the 2000s, we witnessed how the helmet catch can go our way, how the bounce can go our way, how we can draft a receiver like OBJ and just continue, or get Cruz like in a preseason to just explode and have 2 Super Bowls and just have the helmet catch go our way. The irony in that is that it's actually it's going opposite that way. And the way the cards have fallen, poker, kennel, nice. The way the cards have fallen, the way the cards have kind of been laid out is that we had a guy have a monster season that got us to almost to an NFC championship that needed to get paid. By him getting paid, causing he needed to get paid. You have to sign the guy. It wasn't like he was on a contract extension or a contract year.
Slow down, Rudy. Hold on, slow down. You just said monster season though.
He did.
He did not have a monster season.
It wasn't monster. It was
not even close. He was on a fucking leash all year long.
Yeah.
He went 13 touchdowns that year, if that.
How many rushing touchdowns? How many rushing yards though? Which is what your boy Lamar lives off of as far as rushing yards go.
Yeah, but
that's how we got the MVP.
But there's a better balance for that in comparison. It's a better balance. Here, I'll bring it right now.
To me, a monster season is you're expected to just be a subpar team with a first-year head coach, and then you win. Corey, how many was it? 13? Was it 12 games?
They won 9 games.
They won 9 games.
9 games.
Including playoffs. 10 games. Including playoffs.
10 games. Got past the first round to a heavily favored Minnesota team at home.
By the way, we were at that game. By the way, we witnessed that.
I know you were. I was texting you during the game. Remember?
We witnessed that.
Here it is. Here. So in 2022, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, 92.5 rating. That's not bad rating wise.
Yards too.
Yeah.
He had a 3,000 yards. I mean, guys, he had a 67% completion rate. He had 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And how many rushing yards did he have that year? Go ahead and pull that up real quick.
Yeah, he had like 700 rushing yards that year.
I don't know.
Yeah, so if that's not a monster year, then I guess I need to learn.
Well, you know what's crazy? That's almost exactly what Lamar did last year, and he got the MVP for it because he was on a really good team. So
thank you.
He won 13 games that year, though, too.
That's exactly my point. Is that he was on a really good team last year. That's why he got the MVP.
But Lamar is also a force multiplier. Daniel Jones is not.
Who does Lamar make better, EJ, around him? Who does he make better around him? Please name it.
It's complicated with him because, like, he's not he's the anomaly here. He's not a typical pass. Well, I won't say pass first. He's a combo hybrid quarterback, and this is going to be the future of the league going forward. Josh Allen was that for a little while too, also until they got him to slow down and stop fucking running the ball all the time.
Yeah, because the coach is smart and he doesn't want to run as much.
But Jim Harbaugh needs to fucking wake the fuck up and tell Lamar to, stop running this damn running plays all the time for him.
No, you're right. Pop, can you finish up making your point? Because I wanted to hear what the rest of you had to say. That was good.
Oh no, I mean it's basically I'm saying that the opposite of the helmet catch is that basically this guy that comes off a season that, again, let's not call it a monster season. Let's call it a Lamar season. So he had a Lamar season, which I think is fair to say based on the amount of rushing yards and touchdowns.
So it's safe to say you're a Lamar hater. Okay, cool. I like that.
Well, I am a Lamar hater. It's no secret. I think the guy. I just think he's a baby. I think he's coddled in the sense that there's just this desire for him to prove everybody wrong, and there's no proving everybody wrong. I mean, he's the recipe for what he does is just not. It's not conducive. So that's whatever. I'll leave that there. But going back to the Daniel Jones thing, after coming off the season the way he did, he was in a contract year. So you have to choose that you're going to start over. Now, again, there's a lot of factors in that as well. And this is a conversation that I had with you, Cory, whoever, is that he was coming off a year where he was with a first-year head coach. He performed the way he did. He had really no big talent around him. All he had was really Saquon Barkley. He had a shaky O-line. He had to have to run a lot. And the defense was just kind of young and coming up. So in the moment, the right play there was to give him the contract that we gave him. We have a 1 year out after the season, whatever it is. Now, with that said, the snowball effect was that the team then digressed. Saquon was now being franchise tagged and he wanted a big contract. Cory and I don't know your feelings on this, but we agree that paying a running back that kind of money, a running back that doesn't play full seasons and does not stay healthy no matter what, unless he's in a contract year, which I've seen that throughout the course of my sports fandom, is that contract years tend to keep people pretty healthy and they play through injury. I know he had a monster game last week, which, we all saw, but to me, it's not sustainable with him. He's a soft tissue injury guy, Julio Jones-esque, which is going to turn into hammies. It's going to turn into ankles, and it's going to turn into missed games. So let them pay the top dollar. Unfortunately, the plan would have been, had Daniel Jones continued to progress, second-year coach, improving the team, he's digressed. And I think I read an article that I feel kind of embodies a lot of what's happened, is that you have a guy, if you follow the course of his career, yes, he's going into his 6th year, and he suffered a major injury. And if you watch the game, which I did, Cory, up until the third quarter, I pretty much watched the whole game. You could see a person, a young man whose confidence is completely blown. He had time in the pocket. He's having a hard time reading defense, and he's gun shy. He's trying to make plays because he's under the gun, and he has no Saquon to just dump the ball off and gain 15 to 20 yards on a dump off pass. So it's just the opposite effect of the helmet catch. We're just having really bad luck. It's a really bad run. Cory made a tremendous point about Hyatt. We're taking a high draft picks. We're leaning on Wan'Dale Robinson, in the middle, and it's not going to work out. We have no legitimate tight end. Every major free agent signing on offense has been a disaster. Whether it's Waller or what's his face, that we the receiver from Detroit that we paid big dollars that turned into absolutely nothing.
Kenny Galladay.
Kenny Galladay. I mean, every major offensive signing that we've had, every major splash we've tried to make in free agency on offense has been an absolute failure. And so here we are. We're staring down a barrel of an awful season. I am out on Daboll, honestly. Which I hate to say because I thought he was going to be solid. The guy, punting on third down. Yeah, punting on fourth down when you're down 18 points is absolutely useless. So
you're out on Daboll?
I'm done. Punting on fourth down with down 18 points, I have no patience for that. And then now where I tried to defend Hard Knocks and some of the fantasy football type GM management, the jury's out on Joe Shine because they were handling the offseason like they were trying to put together a fantasy football team. And it's disappointing.
So should we let Daboll and Shine get a new quarterback for us first? Because it wasn't our quarterback. That was the David Gettleman thing.
I don't know. That's a question for you guys. You guys have that conversation. I don't know. Quinn Ewers sounds great. The offensive line is improving. But I mean, like I said, I have to agree with Cory made tremendous points on the offensive play calling. He took over the play calling. So if you're taking over the play calling, you feel you're that strong, and you should be putting some pretty Mike McCarthy-esque type plays. You should not be punting on 4th and 3 when you're down 3 scores. Like, you should be making an effort to win. You should be establishing, the type of attitude that the Lions have taken on, which is we're a young team and we're going to go for it. When you're not going for it and you're losing and your quarterback has no confidence and your team is looking for leadership and you fail in that moment to provide that leadership, I have no patience for you.
Couldn't agree more.
I'm still on the fence with Daboll right now because I at this point I'm getting sick and fucking tired of changing coaches every 2-3 years. Going from Tom Coughlin for 10, 11, 12 years to going to Who was after that? Ben McAdoo.
Shermer.
To now, who's it? Joe Judge.
Joe Judge.
I'm over it. I like some stability here. You know, I'm willing. Unless the shit goes over the fucking like belly up this year, I'm willing to give Daboll a chance to draft the quarterback next and then go from there.
Dude, I picture Daboll now, and I think of Hard Knocks, and I think of him with his feet on the fucking couch and talking to these guys like he wants to be cool and jive with them and shit. And I see that as weak. I see that as a leader that's got lack of confidence and they just want to be cool and not and act like they're doing you a favor instead of taking ownership and being leaders. Some of those interviews with those players, like I think back to whether it was Harrison or whoever, like just some of those conversations they were Mickey Mouse conversations. I don't see strong leadership, and I like the Joe Shine approach, and I like the Brian Burns signing. I like some of the stuff they did. I just don't like the way I don't like the way Daboll's operated. I just don't like the strife in the locker room and the thing.
Well, the shit Cory said about the Hyatt thing was egregious last year.
Yeah,
that was egregious. I agree with you on that. Says that fucking drafted the guy that can use him.
Yep.
Bro, he was on the field. He was on the field for like 4 or 5 snaps on Sunday. Dude, you take him with a 3rd round pick and he's supposed to be our deep guy, and you refuse to throw the ball deep. And that's on both Jones and that's on Daboll for the play calling. It was all, and you guys watched the same exact fucking thing that I did. It was all the hook and button routes that were like 5 or 6 yards deep. There was nothing downfield. It was like Neighbors. The fact that he only had like 6 catches, he should have had way more than that. He was the highest drafted receiver in Giants history, and you're only throwing it to him like in a slant route or like a hook route or a button route or whatever. The fact that you're not using the shit out of this guy that has the potential to be a rock star, the fact that you can't scheme up ways to get him open, ways to get him the ball, instead just hooking button routes to Wandale and Theo Johnson and like somebody else that's not Hyatt, that's a fucking joke to me, man. So I'm still on the fence with Daboll too, but I agree with you on the point, EJ. You can't keep rotating head coaches, and you have to give him a chance to work with the quarterback that those guys find. I agree with you on that point. But on the same token, punting on 4th and 3 when you're at basically midfield is pussy shit, and it's a fucking joke. Sorry, I'll call it what it is.
No, you're right. It's almost as bad as the Joe Judge. What was it, 4th and 8?
Yeah, when they were buried on the 5-yard line, and they took a quarterback draw to punt the ball away. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I remember that. It was yesterday.
Did you ever defend that? Why he did that? Did you ever say why he did that?
Nope. And they got booed mercilessly, which rightfully so. But yeah, it's almost as bad as that in my eyes. 4th and 3, and you're down 18 points, and you're basically waving the white flag, knowing your defense has been on the field the entire game.
So Daniel Jones is done, I think. I look, going back to the Saquon contract, well, not the contract, but the Daniel Jones contract. I defended the language of the contract at the time. Okay, I defended the language of it. Like, okay, it was a 4-year deal, but really a 2-year deal. But you can get out of this deal after this year. I understood that, and I understood why they didn't want to pay Saquon, because you don't want to pay running back that kind of money. But my defense of that was also, it's not just Saquon's not just any running back. He's special. He's special. Like the dude is, when he's healthy, in terms of his toolbox, he could be one of the all-time greats. It's not even a conversation. He's that talented.
But the problem is he can't stay on the field, EJ. The problem is he's not Barry. He's not going to play. He's just not going to give you.
Well, obviously, team is shit.
He's got all-time talent. He just doesn't have all-time playing ability as far as physical attributes to that, right. To last that long. So you have to have. You're paying a guy to basically to chase his own legacy. And as much as I want to say that that's a good thing. Again, let's go back. Say that we don't have a quarterback, we haven't found one yet, and you can start on a rookie contract with a quarterback for the next 4 years. And but when you've paid your quarterback and that's the decision you made and you're sticking to it, which I understand the logic behind it, then you have a running back that's now getting close to 30 and then can't stay healthy close to 30. You're locking him up for 4 years going into his 30s, And how helpful is that going to be for the team? And that's for the team from a financial standpoint. Business part of it jumped in. I get it. I was one calling for Eli to be benched when he was still on the Iron Man chase, and I mean it's just you could see his arm had turned to spaghetti, and he just wasn't making it happen anymore. I mean, sometimes there's just a business side, and you got to take the emotion out of it. Hindsight now, yeah, you don't pay Jones, you let him hold out, and then you pay Saquon, and let him run for his legacy and start over the new quarterback. But I mean, I really I was at that. Huh?
What was it? $2 million off annually?
They were like $2 million. Yeah, but that was his fault that they were $2 million off. He didn't even give the Giants a chance to, after he shopped the Eagles, to come back and have us match it, to my understanding. So I mean, a lot of that is him just kind of being the greedy. I don't want to say greedy, but doing the kind of the vindictive thing. But it's unfortunate without a doubt.
There's a few points I want to make on this, and I'm glad we're sitting here talking about this. I have some feelings on it. One, they offered, and you can look it up. I have resources, and you can totally just look it up on Google right now. One, in the middle of the 2022 year, when the Giants were 7-1, 7-2, whatever they were, when they were having an outstanding start to the year, they offered Saquon the same exact contract that he just signed with Philly, and he said no. He said no, that's not enough for me. They offered the same
the year before, right?
The same exact contract, whatever, $13.5 million a year. It can go up to 15, whatever it was. They offered the same exact. He said, no, we're going to play it out, and then whatever happens, happens. They go and win that playoff game in Minnesota, and they get destroyed in Philly. So then they give him that franchise tag. But my point number one was being that they offered him the same contract, and he said no. Point two is the Giants, Joe Shane specifically, did exactly what you were supposed to do in that situation. You lock up their franchise quarterback because in this day and age, you have to pay quarterbacks. It's what the market dictates. You have to do that, and you cannot give running backs a massive second contract. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. If it was the Chiefs that were put in that same exact situation, if it was the Steelers, the Ravens, whoever, if any of them were in that situation, they would have been applauded and it's great move, 100%, nothing but respect. You have to give Jones that money right there, because after that playoff win, after that year. And the language was perfect in the sense that they can get out of the contract in 2 years and shit went sideways. Obviously now shit went completely sideways. Point three, if you watch the Hard Knocks episode, which EJ, I know for a fact you watched it. If you watch that Hard Knocks episode, like or after the credits or whatever, or like right before the credits, whenever it was, where Shane's on the phone with Saquon saying, like, hey man, like they were having the full-on conversation. You could hear it in Saquon's tone. He didn't want to come back. You could hear it saying like, we already know where I want to be at, so. You could hear it in his voice that he didn't want to come back to the Giants, and that's exactly why he didn't sign that contract with the Giants after 2022, because he just don't want to be there anymore. Do I fault him for that? No, because look at where the Giants are right now and look at where the Eagles are now, and he made the right move, and the Eagles were in a spot as a winning franchise, and I hate saying that, and it tastes like fucking dog shit coming out of my mouth.
Oh, God, yeah. Trust me. I know the feeling.
As a winning team and in win-now mode as they are, they can afford to pay a running back that money. Where the Giants stand right now, could they afford to pay a running back that money? Absolutely not. Running backs are a luxury. They're not a building block in building a winning team. So those are the thoughts and feelings I have on it. Saquon didn't want to be a Giant anymore. It is what it is. He could have been in the Ring of Honor. He could have been one of the Giants legends. He chose not to do that, and he chose the money and chose to completely turn his back on the entire the fan base. It is what it is, man. That's where I stand on it. So.
Here's a trivia question. Great points. Valid, super valid, great points. So, trivia question. Last 15 years, name a team that has won a Super Bowl that has given a second, that is locked in a second contract to a running back. Name a team that's won a Super Bowl that has given a big contract to extend the running back. And go.
This year, Baltimore.
Can't.
Lock it up.
It's going to be very hard.
Your answer, Rudy?
It's going to be very hard because if you think of, well, it's fun to think about too, because if you think about the big running back contract extensions that have happened in recent years, you can think of Joe Mixon. He signed with Cincinnati, re-signed. They didn't win. It didn't. He's. I mean, this guy's. I mean, Joe Mixon is good. Ezekiel Elliott signed big for his contract extension. That we all know how that worked out. I think Eckler did re-sign originally, and now he's gone. And we can go on and on. The Redskins have done it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go through the teams that have had a lot of success have moved on from those big name running backs. McCaffrey ends up getting traded. We can go. I mean, the Chiefs are super aware, well aware that they're not gonna overspend on a running back, and they understand that if you can't overspend on a running back, you can because it allows you to spend on skill positions in the offense that are not a running back, that you can get a young second, third, fourth round pick to carry the workload, or have a committee, which is the world we live in today. There's maybe 4 running backs in the league that are bell cow running backs, and that's pretty much it. Everywhere else, we'll see it. I'm sure we'll see it with the Chargers this weekend after the J.K. Dobbins show, that it's going to shift, and they keep their running backs fresh. It's a long season, and these guys hit harder than they did 15 years ago. There's no doubt about it. And these are big boys that hit very hard.
Let me go off topic real quick, and like way off topic, because I know something we wanted to discuss actually a couple of days ago. The debate on Tuesday. What are your thoughts on that?
Please.
Yes. This is great. I love the debate. Oh my God, this is good. Where do you want to? Where do you got? Where do you want to start? I mean, I love this topic. This is one of my favorite topics. I've already
exhausted my thoughts on the debate, like on 2 different podcasts already today. So I'm good. So you guys want to go ahead and I'll just jump on your conversation.
EJ,
on this,
I'm not political in the slightest, and my father can attest to that. But I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are, because as someone that does not devote much time to politics at all, and I laugh at the people that they use it as like part of their personality. I laugh and I giggle at that.
I can never do that.
I think it's hysterical. I really want to know what you guys think, because I was going to go back to my point. As someone that is into super politics, I was sitting there watching that debate, because it's obviously a very important time for all of us. And as an American that's growing up, young and wants to be more aware of what's going on in the country I live in, it seemed like no matter what political affiliation I have, it seemed like Kamala just ate him up for lunch and just didn't leave any leftovers whatsoever. That's what
she destroyed him. I mean, it's bad when I'm getting texts from like people who are actually Trump guys and Trump folks telling me the same thing. Like, no, Trump didn't do well tonight. Kamala destroyed him.
It was bad, and I want to know what you guys think about it. And you're probably tired of it, EJ, but I was excited to hear.
I'm never tired of politics. I love politics, so I'm one of the few people who's a complete like glutton for punishment. I love this stuff.
So please,
I've matured.
I want to hear Rudy's thoughts. Actually, it's been a while since we talked politics. You and I.
Yes.
I know it's been a long time. So I mean, a lot. There's a lot to. There's not a lot to unpack. It's pretty simple. I love some of the rhetoric, some of the commentary, some of the reaction. It's almost like people have turned it into a personal investment in who they were rooting for. So what I've noticed and what I've learned, and it is a very polarizing topic today, way more than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you had a debate between Al Gore and George Bush, and it was almost an afterthought. Today, it's almost like a Super Bowl. And a lot of it, and unfortunately and sadly, is very much entertainment. It's very much social media banter, and it's a way to throw memes about eating cats and dogs. And so, to me, it falls down to one of the main thoughts that I came out of it is that somebody had said it so perfectly too, is that every time around this time, every 4 years, right around this time, it's almost like it's 50-50. Like you have 50%. The polls say half of America wants this person, and then the other half wants the other. And what I love about that debate is that is to see like the human, just because human beings intrigue me. Social, you see me do it at poker tables all the time. Yeah. I kind of, it's how I can easily needle someone, just because you can just identify something that's just going to absolutely.
You are the GOAT with that.
Eat that person. And if you noticed, the strategy was really the Rudy needle. The strategy was basically centered around, hey, your rallies are boring and people leave early. Yeah. And you saw somebody come completely unhinged and react to it. And so it was the strategy, which then becomes again, this is a 2-point thing that I'm making. So the strategy that then pretty much triggers a person that's unhinged, that's literally just all over the place, that just creates lies right on the spot. Also shows you and proves to you that there is a large faction of America that is not going to shift their thoughts or who they're rooting for. That's a fact. That is what it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's saying that I have a concept of a plan, doesn't have a plan at all. There is an underlying current of anger and of entitlement and of feeling shortchanged. That's what it is. That's how they feel. It's going to be that way. And that's a person that they feel is outspoken, that regardless of how that outspokenness comes out or how it's projected, it's outspokenness, whether it's not factual, whether it's lies, whether it's complete just bullshit. That's the person that speaks for me because he speaks his mind and we need change. On the flip side, the other person, awful choice, a person that really wasn't somebody that anybody was really rooting for 4 years ago, that got barely 1% of the vote, but at least has been in office for 4 years. That person also has half the country that is now rooting for her or more after that debate. So there is, I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say kind of where I fall. I'm going to kind of, anybody knows me knows that I'm not a fan of that man. I'm very much opposed to him. But I'm not a fan of the other candidate either. I mean, I'm just not a fan. I think that there could have been, that money drove that choice. Political money drove that choice to be basically a default choice. I think that's bad. I think that's
the word chest.
A lot of correct. So I think that we're archaic in our electoral college and the way we have a two-party system. But human beings really only want two choices. So that's an incrimination on who we are, right? How limited we tend to make ourselves. How everybody can have a phone, a piece of electronics that's completely identified or completely attached to them, on who they are, on how encrypted it is, and that we can't just use that to cast a vote that basically singles us to our choice. The last thing I'll say is that with what I said, as far as people are going to sit and decide of who they're going to sit, there is an undecided or an independent or a very small sliver of folks that are going to be impacted by a person showing their entire ass on national television and showing how incompetent they could be as far as self-control. And those people are going to swing the election. And those people, they reside in swing states, and they're going to say, you know what? This guy's talking about dogs and cats and worried about his rallies and has no plan. So I'm just going to go with the safe bet, even though you can be convinced that things are awful and that that she's a terrible candidate but you know what? At the end of the day, people tend to go with what they feel safer with some type of normalcy versus somebody that's unhinged, somebody that's just making up lies on the spot, somebody that's completely unlikable, somebody that looked old during that debate, and he just couldn't keep it under control. And people will tend to side with can be controlled.
That point is made was perfect. Like, for the first time in 9 years since he's been in the political spectrum, Donald Trump looked old to me. Like, even in June when I saw Joe Biden, two old guys, I never thought Donald Trump was old because he didn't show the aura of oldness like Joe Biden did. You know what I'm saying? He did on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I've had my piece on this already. I already know who I'm voting for. I've been locked on who I'm voting for anyway. Just didn't change for me in terms of who I'm voting for. But yeah, it's just she whipped his ass. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Are you voting for someone or are you voting against? Are you voting for someone or against someone?
I'm voting for Tim Walz.
Fair.
Okay. See,
fair. I like it. No, listen. No, I think it's fair. I think to me, it's everybody, the perspective is so huge, right? So everybody wants to cry about how bad things are, right? And how terrible things are. And the same people that are crying about how terrible and how bad things are and how awful things are, they're the same people that have 2 cars and have 3 or 4 big screens. And, they have perspective. They have all the luxuries. They're actually living the top 3% of wealth in the entire planet. And a lot, as human beings, we tend to focus on the things we don't have rather than things we have. There is an emotional, nostalgic desire to be in a time that we tend to filter out the bad things and think that things were so great. It's just one thing that I've noticed a lot about people. Do people get uncomfortable because things are changing? Because maybe the clerk at McDonald's doesn't look like they looked maybe 30 years ago? Yeah, of course, there's change, and people become uncomfortable. That milk is $5 a gallon versus $1.29, or the gas is now $3 whatever versus when it was 89 cents. And they pined for a time when gas was that way. But at the same time, when gas was 89 cents and milk was $1.05 or whatever, there were incurable diseases that people lost relatives and other folks because there weren't cures for them. So there were things back then that didn't really work. So there's a lot involved. I know it's a very emotional thing. It's just funny that, to me, anybody can be convince themselves that, because it's on one side, you get the speech of, well, the president doesn't really control that much, right? So that same person that says, well, the president doesn't have that much control. Whether it's when Trump became president, well, you shouldn't worry so much. Don't be so afraid. The president doesn't control that much. But when it's the person that they're rooting against has a potential to win, now it's that the person is going to take the country down. Even though there's been more Supreme Court justices put in by Republicans, that the Republicans control the Senate and the House. So there's always seems to be a story that gets played out to try to benefit the argument that you're trying to make. So it's either one or the other. The president doesn't have that much control, or he or she does. So I go back and I digress to the conversations and the arguments that people have tried to have with me that the president doesn't have that much control, so that we can have somebody in there that at least can be coherent, that at least can be, could have some kind of respect for just admitting that they lost an election. I mean, that's still in for that individual. It's still an argument. It's still something that hasn't been proven. There's still plenty of people that said this and said that. So, I mean, I look forward to a time when this guy kind of finally just goes away. I think that the damage has been done, because there's people that feel that type of anger, that type of outspokenness, that type of divisiveness is somehow can get you elected to president. And you see that with the people that are behaving more like him, that get more YouTube videos and reels and all the little, the sound bites. So they're all looking.
I've said that he is the single most important politician in my lifetime, because he has created something in a way where not only I'm not going to sit there and say that he created the divisiveness, but what I will say is that he created such a lane that people are, good or bad, well more informed into politics than they ever have been. And, to the point where people are making money on this stuff. Like he's created a lane where people can make money, on creating content based on whether you love or hate Trump, or whether or not you love or hate the liberals and all this kind of stuff. He's created a lane in ways that he is influenced in such a way that I've ever seen, and maybe ever we've seen in America. And it's crazy to think that, like, it's insane how much influence he's had on the entire populace in these last 9 years. It's crazy. And like for me, like, look, I joke around a lot, on the podcast about like how I think the guy's funny as hell. He's like a great insult comic and all this stuff, and I love watching videos of him speak because he's crazy and off the cuff and all that. I would never really just vote for the guy, because at the end of the day, I have principles. Even as someone who's raised conservative, I always said, like, I would never vote. If I was still Republican, because which I was till 2008, I would vote down ballot Republican and leave the top empty. I couldn't in principle vote for the guy for one reason. When you try to overturn an election, try to stop the Constitution, you don't get to tell me you're pro freedom. That's out the window now, because you proved otherwise that you were not. Okay, you literally said stop the Constitution. You literally had fake electors in Georgia, in Arizona, in Wisconsin. No, we're not doing that. That's not fun and games. That's why I have principles. I'm sorry. When people ask me why I won't vote for Trump, there's a reason why. Because you know what? If a Democrat did the same damn thing, I have the same feelings also too. Bottom line. So
Dude, people have an insatiable desire, and they have throughout the history of humanity to be led. Okay. And it's one of those things where whether it's you wondering where you need to be pushed, me wondering, what's my number, when do I need to hit, and how do you get me there? Or whether it's Cory in his role and basically being scheduled out, whatever it is, there's people want to be led. And the thing, again, I'm super intrigued by this topic. I'm super intrigued by, Cory will tell you, and he mirrors some of that. Super intrigued by Vietnam, the Vietnam War. World War II is one of my favorite topics to
me
really,
too. World War II also for me as well.
Movies, things like so. I remember being young and growing up and wondering how can a German soldier burn somebody alive, right? There's questions that you just like think through, like how can a human being, but there's so many factors, right? So when you look at how fertile the ground was for this Trump era, right? For the MAGA movement, if you want to call it what it is, the MAGA movement. When you look at fertile ground, and it was very fertile ground, it's like the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean when a hurricane's churning. The waters were extremely warm. We had an environment, a social media environment, where you could find like-minded people and follow those groups and get involved with people that would just throw out things that you would want to. Again, there's chemical triggers in our body that help us, that make us feel that we're doing something. That's something. There's endorphins. There's things that just that make us feel good, right? And when there's somebody speaking things that are triggering reactions for things that bother you behind closed doors, and he's saying those things, and he's speaking loudly like your uncle would do at Thanksgiving that you could agree with, but this guy's doing it on a big stage, and there's other folks that are basically justifying that feeling. Because I've had conversations where I ask specific questions because you both know how inquisitive I can be, and those questions quickly, those answers quickly kind of start diverging into, you're just, and then they just kind of give up. Because when you get a group of people to start thinking like-minded and just nod their head and agree with you because, you're saying the things that they want to hear with no research, with no legitimate research other than looking up things. Let's just use the example of cats and dogs. There's already been people that commented on folks, instead of me posting, I just commented on folks' posts, and they throw out some woman, some black lady in Ohio. I guess she looks Haitian. Meanwhile, she was born there, right? So they find some obscure article about a lady that ate a cat or ate a dog or whatever. This man's saying that they, as in plural, people are coming here and eating people's pets in Ohio, plural, just loud. It's a fact. It is what it is. And then so these people just find an obscure article that basically proves their point because they want to make this guy right, as if they were just personally invested, like it's their child, and this guy can't be saying the wrong thing. It's true. We're all under attack, right? So the fertile ground was there. The like-mindedness was there. The anger was there. The times are changing things. Because I'll be honest with you, I was not a super anti-Obama guy, but he really didn't. He really was. I will say, I will agree with some people when they talk about some of his divisiveness. He didn't really do a great job of tailoring his approach to everybody. He would tend to kind of focus his message on the folks that supported him, and I'll agree with that. He did. So when you look at overall the fertile ground, he came in at the right time. He was saying a lot of the angry things that people were privately being angry about, and now here we are. Here we are, where the migrants are just all the illegals are murderers. People are eating cats and dogs. Crime is going down around the world because all the criminals are coming here, and people nod and agree with it. Like it's like somehow it can possibly be true, which is the farthest thing from true. It's unbelievable. And he gets defended, and that's where we are. It's unfortunate. My level of faith in humanity has fallen quite a bit, but I tend to kind of look at the positive and say, you know what, there's a lot of good people, and I think he hurt himself tremendously in this debate, and he's not going to debate again. He's already said it.
Yeah,
I saw the clip from Fox News where he was just kind of just going off. Yeah, it's what it is.
He said,
Well, don't forget the best part. Don't forget the best part in that whole cats and dogs thing, where he was like, he was doing the whole waving his hands around, and he was doing this, and he was doing all that, and he was like, "Oh, they're eating our dogs, they're eating our pets," and like and the moderators let him finish up his entire rant, and the moderator was like, President Trump, I just want to let you know the city manager did come out and say there's been no reports of anything like that transpiring in Springfield, Ohio. And he goes, yeah, but I saw it on television. And then they moved on to Kamala on the next. Like, I honestly, and it's terrible that I did. I started laughing. I thought that was fucking hysterical.
Terrible, it is.
Yeah, but I saw it on television. That's what we. That's what we did.
I think the sad part for me is that I laughed, and yet I wasn't surprised. That's when you know you're.
Oh no, none of that. I had a buzz and I just laughed my ass off the whole time. It is an absolute joke. It's a clown show. And I do want to, one of my kind of more final thoughts is the irony and the irony of life, the irony of the things that people say. And I actually it bleeds into hypocrisy. Just like I said about how from one side, the argument can be made that the president doesn't have that much power to, oh my God, if she's elected, she's going to destroy our country. So one fits if you're going to argue for Trump. The other one gets basically completely contorted because you're arguing for her. On the same token, and I go deep with it. I go deep with it because when somebody tells me that they believe and God is in control and it's all it's this country is losing Jesus, but you're going to support a man that clearly has no relationship whatsoever. Could care less if God exists or not, who's been married multiple times, he's probably had 1,000 abortions.
The excuse they use is that,
so if you truly have convictions on what's right and wrong, and you feel that the right thing, or that God is in control, well, then if God is in control, why would you vote for a guy that's not religious whatsoever, that there's no Christian conviction whatsoever? If God is in control, then the right thing to do would be not to vote for that man and let God be in control, because God is going to make sure that the right person is there. So what I find to be amazing, as I've grown older and I've seen the way people react, is that everything tends to be applicable only when it benefits the argument you're trying to make. In other words, God is in control. I'm voting for Trump. It's the right choice. But really, that man has nothing to do with a godly way. So when you say something, it's just like you've seen me do at a poker table a million times. I knew you had a flush, but that you called anyways. So it's this thing that it's a comfort. It's like comfort food. It's like, it makes me feel better. So therefore, I just want to throw that out there, even though it really makes no sense based on what I'm doing. It still sounds good. So it just makes sense to me. And then the other 100 idiots that are agreeing with me because it just feels right. Right. So that's what I find amazing, man. At this stage of my life, it's amazing to see people say one thing, like I told you about the whole president really doesn't have that much control, to the president is going to ruin our country and destroy our world, to, God is in control, but I'm going to vote for an ungodly man because he votes against the board. You see what I'm saying? That's what makes me laugh about people. That's what actually makes me have a lot of fun with life now, is that for me, my son is grown. I have no little kids. It is what it is. I'm more like worried for you. You have children, like especially great people that have children that have to worry about a future. For me, I find people to be absolutely amazing, and they're incredibly impressionable, and they're very fickle, and they just go with the wind. I mean, with whatever it is that the other people that they're super tied to in the social media groups. I've seen, how many times do you go out and you see a family where the man and the wife are sitting on their phones playing the whole time, scrolling through all the angry things that are feeding their situation, and while their kids are sitting there playing on iPads. Yeah, that is the world we live in. And that's where we're at. So there's no winning. There is no winning. We are past that. And that's where I've seen documentaries on it. I've seen the impact that it has on us. I see where our social decay is driven from. And it's really centered around the behavior of grown-ups. That we're less grown-ups. We are less of grown-ups today than our parents were grown-ups at the time.
Without question.
Because there was more sacrifice we have less sacrifice. We just have more entitlement. And I group myself into that. My generation, us. So
everything's been dumbed down now.
Right.
Everything's dumbed down now. There's no effort to try to do better sometimes. I'm not saying everybody, but just a large part of the population, and everybody just accept things as they are. I'm like, no. It's the same thing goes to what I say with hypocrisy. Like, and I'm not trying to defend Joe Biden here, but Joe Biden, Marxist, communist. Also, Joe Biden, old and stupid. Which one is it? Then? You can't have both ways. Right. Pick one. Right. Pick one. I mean, look, I'm okay if you have an opinion on either one, but you can't have both. It can't be both. They're not music exclusive. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't get it. Like, and again, I always tell folks, because some of my best friends are MAGA supporters. I don't care. They're good people. I care about intent, and they're good people. But just vote your policies and keep moving, man. Vote for policies. You like Trump's policies, vote for policies. You vote Kamala, vote Kamala policies, but keep moving. Because I don't need all these.
But there's no way. There is no winning. We don't win. In the end, the only hope we have is ourselves. The only hope we have really is people like you, like young families, and the impact on how you're going to raise your children.
Yeah.
My hope, what my hope has been literally boiled down to is taking what has become of the last 15 years. Like Cory is just before like the phone generation, right? So Cory was actually born before, so he's just before that, the phone and the electronics generation of complete internet connectivity, right? So he was a VHS baby, right? He watched the VeggieTales and stuff on VHS, and then ultimately, by the time he was old enough, he it was what it was. I remember, right? So the thing about it is does your the generation behind you that has young children, do they take do they take some of this research and some of the things that are shown to get us where we are, and then start making those changes? Because we have moved into a very scary section of entitlement, right? And when you start looking and seeing that that housing is becoming absolutely unaffordable to Cory's generation and the generations behind them, that's where it's now you start looking at like the social breakdown, right? Like social breakdown is to me the most concerning thing, because now you're talking again, how hard it is to live, blaming it on one head of state. That's not really, instead of like focusing on term limits and with the people that actually make these decisions, instead of having us infighting. Look at our Facebook. Look at the people that argue the two sides, right? I don't do it anymore. I don't care. It is what it is. You're not going to change. And I don't want to throw names out there.
You troll. I know you are. And you troll a lot there. I love it.
I will troll. I don't troll as much as like a Pat does, but I'll troll, right? So my thing is that because the truth is, and I've watched, like I'll like do the laughing thing, and I'll see these guys, and it's the same guys arguing a point that is never going to change the other guy's mind. It's not going to happen. You are not going to change anybody's mind. They have already had enough influence in their paradigm and what they see, what they view, what they read, what they ingest, and what they accept, that there's nothing that other individual is going to say that's going to change their mind. So It is what it is. And I guess I've moved on. I've graduated to the point where I'm just literally just entertained by it. And, I still remember how 30 years ago, Bill Clinton was going to ruin the world, and how scary it was going to be, and how terrible. I remember. And you know what? I remember when George Bush in the recession and how horrific that was. And then Bill Clinton was going to be the worst. And then George W. Bush was the worst. And then Obama, oh my God, this guy's going to destroy us.
Black president.
So all these things. And then the guy wore a tan suit, and they were like flipped out. And then Trump was going to ruin the world. And then Joe Biden was going to ruin the world. And the thing I've learned in my entire life is that people are just inherently unhappy and dissatisfied. And if you're unhappy, dissatisfied, and you're a loser, there's no president that's ever going to make you not a loser. You're just going to be an unhappy, loser, and that's it. There's nothing nobody's going to change that but you. You got to either be happy with yourself and make the best of whatever president it is, whatever government it is. You got to make yourself, happy. And that's and I know I kind of got, what topic is going to get me going. So I love it.
I love
it. Fucking
it.
Rudyism right there.
I love it. So who wins the election then? You think that it was decided on Tuesday?
Dude, honestly, I believe, and I think somebody was arguing with me today about it. I think he lost the election on Tuesday night. I think he did. I think he lost the election. I think that he put himself in a situation that you can't recover from. I mean, he's been ranting and raving about it. I think that the flips, where I felt like where obviously Biden had to back out and leave because of how horrible, which I agreed was just.
It's terrible.
We can vote for this guy, Joe Biden. When that debate happened, I think he did this almost the same thing. I mean, Biden was the worst ever. I mean, I was literally like, this guy there's no way to vote for this guy. So at least, I mean, Trump keeps his base because there'll always be excuses for everything. He didn't really mean it this way. All the excuses that are made for him, the way he said it, it's almost like, like listening to somebody try to explain the Bible. Well, what it meant to say was this, when they start, basically translating things that were said or whatever he said. So I think he keeps his base, but anybody but the undecided in the middle of the road they're gonna vote for her. And it's just, that's pretty much what I feel. I think he pretty much lost the election the other night, in my opinion. Remember, the election's only in 4 weeks away.
Well, 7 weeks, but close enough though.
Huh?
7 weeks.
Yeah. Right.
Close enough though. Cory, you feel the same way too about that?
I don't know enough on the topic to talk about it, so I'm not going to. It's a crazy change of pace for a lot of people that, that don't really want to follow suit because they have to inject their opinion and how they feel about certain things that they have no clue about. But on the contrary, for me, I'm not going to comment that much because I don't know enough, and I'd love to be educated on it. I
love that you confess that and don't pretend that you know it all or know anything about it. And you say, you know what, I'm gonna, look, I'll bypass I'm strong opinions on something that I don't know anything about. I respect that. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people feel like they have to comment on everything that you see and
that's my whole point. That's my whole point. Actually, there was somebody I interacted with not too long ago at a bar. I was with one of my buddies, and we got to know each other. We were sitting there kind of bullshitting, talking about. I think we were watching a Mets game. Let's go Mets. We were watching. We had a Mets game on at the bar. My buddy and I. And, this guy that we never talked to before, we started chopping up a little bit. And then completely out of nowhere, because in today's day and age, you have to figure out, who somebody is siding with, as far as politics go. Immediately, he was like, who are you guys voting for, by the way? And we were, totally, taken aback by it. At a bar, Friday night, vibes are high. Everybody's getting off work. We're having a good time, having a couple drinks. And immediately, it has to be known, who we're siding with or who we're affiliated with politically. And I find that to be super weird.
Well, and it is weird because it is weird because growing up for me, no one asked that stuff. It was always assumed that who you're voting for or what your leaning was private. It was personal.
Right. And now that's my whole point. And as young people, my buddy is, I think he's 28, I'm 25. We're at a bar. This guy didn't seem like he was too much older than us. Where we're not really it's something that we shouldn't be centrally focused on. It should be a concern of ours that we should be having conversations about it. But it shouldn't be hey, I'm going to bring this up to strangers. I have no clue who they are.
Yeah,
I'm going to see who they're voting for. That shouldn't be a thing to figure out what type of person somebody is in today's day and age. And I found that to be super weird. But back to my point. I don't know enough on the situation, so I'm not going to comment on it. That's where I see it, and I want to delve more into the topic. I want to delve more into politics before I make an educated guess on how I feel about things. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, but
I respect that.
More man.
That was fun. Anyway, fellas, that was fun.
Yeah, bro.
The game ended 30 minutes
ago.
Yeah, man. the game ended 30 minutes ago.
Good time. Another good.
I mean, honestly, the game was really not really a game. After two was injury, it was okay, well, this is over.
It was game over.
Pretty much over.
So,
this is good. I love this. it was a great time. I mean, again, appreciate it. I think it was overdue, but I mean, I love the switching. I love switching gears like that. I think it's great. It's great convo. Great to go back and forth. Great to talk about.
It was good. It was good having
receivers.
up, by the way. He was like, hey, completely off topic. Fuck Saquon. Fuck the Giants. Hey, we're gonna talk about Tuesday night. That's my boy right there. That's how you do shit.
No, that's the thing too. Also, like I was thinking about it too. Like, well, because I do watch alongs all the time with on my wrestling retro podcast with my friends, and we watch old matches, but we don't just comment on the matches. We actually discuss things relatively around it and whatever. And I figured this put on the game in the background and this riff. See, the thing with podcasts, and this is kind of like a podcast too to some degree, but the difference between what we did back in May versus now is that when we did in May, we had topics set to go. We had okay, line by line issues. We're gonna hit this. This one we just came. What fucking let's come in here. Let's just chill. We're at a bar, watching the game, and we're just talking. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to do that.
As someone that is going through a lot of personal shit right now, EJ, something like this to get my mind off shit and just have a blast with my best friend and somebody who I respect highly of and I love, and you.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Something I needed, man. No, of course. So thank you guys.
This is what this meeting is for, man. Is just create free flowing conversation always.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So
I
enjoyed it, man.
Good stuff.
And to all listeners that stuck around, I know we got some viewers that are watching this thing on Twitter. So thanks for watching this. Appreciate it. And you'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.